This has been our home for the last 14 months as a church. It's our student worship center. It seats max like 170 people. So we've been having 3 services every Sunday because we're under construction, remodeling our worship center, adding gathering space, a new kids worship room, indoor playground, and I'm ready to take you along the journey to show you the progress of how all of that construction has gone, or in some cases, maybe the lack of progress. Talk to you about some things that I regret, some decisions we made or didn't make, and then really just show you how excited I am. We're so close, we're getting there, the finish line is in sight. The original finish line was like in November. So you know how that goes with construction though. We're getting so close, let me show you. So here we are in our remodeled worship center. This room was originally built a little more than 20 years ago, and it was a little bit wider on each end. All of these walls on the sides have been new additions, and there was this kind of weird feeling in the room of like if you're on stage, people almost sitting behind you at times. And we had where I'm standing now in the stadium seating sections was actually like giant Sunday school / nursing mothers rooms with big mirrors across the back. And so we gutted those, added stadium seating, and kind of reshaped the room to work correctly. On stage, we had a choir loft and it's like some makeshift walls. And so we've redone that all to work in the modern worship era. And we can always add choir risers when needed. So those are some of the layout changes we made to the actual space. Now let's talk AVL. For a project this large, I definitely did not want to go full DIY, even though it's tempting all the time I could probably do some of that myself and save money. Guys, this project is $5.7 million for the whole build out. And whenever I got my initial budget, it was $342,000 for all of AVL. Okay, that's everything in this room, everything in the new kids worship, all the hallways, IT, all the things. Well, that wasn't really going to cut it, but we decided we're just going to make it work. I think we settled for like $425 with our integration company. That's what we signed for. Speaking of integration companies, we're using DC Pro, kind of standing here in their workstation that they've set up here in the worship center. DC Pro has been great to work with, no regrets when it comes to choosing them as my integration company. When we began this remodel, I knew I wanted an integration company, but I didn't realize the level of detail that has to be provided in the schematics, the drawings, everything that goes to all the different trades to make sure all the bases are covered. And so I'm super glad that that was not something I tried to think that I could do myself without ever doing it, So I'm not trained in that. But DC Pro has handled all of those things with a lot of thoroughness and honestly, a lot of grace. And that's a good thing when you're trying to work together as a team with a bunch of different guys. So over the last month, DC Pro has been doing a lot of cable pulls, a lot of this 12G 4694R from Belden. That's the 12G stuff, along with tons of cat cable and all the audio stuff. So, making sure our conduit was all ran correctly and done so that way cables could be pulled efficiently. All those things in the back end that you don't really think about are definitely important when it comes to remodels. And I think one regret that I have is not adding a full conduit run between this broadcast booth to our media booth. Right now it's just stubbed up to ceiling, and I think in the future I'm probably going to regret that. Now, we have not run fiber to any locations. Hopefully I don't regret that in the future. I don't see that I'm going to really need that for our workflows going forward, but who knows at this point? Maybe I should have went ahead and invested in it. But it's expensive. And then we are not doing NDI. I know a lot of people are leaning that way, or 2110. No, not for us. I just don't trust it at this point. And so sticking with 12G. And we are going full 4K all the way to the live stream. Not to our LED wall, but everything going out will be 4K. If you remember, I told you that my budget I was given was $342,000, and we settled on $425,000. So we were already over budget, going to have to pull that from our overage funds. But then God just blew me away. We had a private donor basically come and say, hey, I've heard that we're not able to do some of the tech right in the new build. Like things like I was having to use our 22-year-old microphone systems. A lot of different things like that where we were going OFE, owner furnished equipment, because, we're going to invest in infrastructure and we can always upgrade those things years down the road. Cross your fingers, you hope, right? Well, this person said, I really want us to do this right. And so they donated $500,000 specifically to the AVL needs of this project. And so when that happened, it changed everything. And I was just blown away and humbled that someone would be willing to invest in our ministry that way. And so really wanting to be the very best steward of those funds still, like I want to stretch those dollars as far as possible, but also maybe shift my mindset a little bit out of like the Amazon specials king and maybe invest in a little bit higher quality fixtures, trying to find where is that law of diminishing returns hitting on different equipment. So for instance, in this rack, we were able to upgrade our mic package. We now have 12 channels of the ULX D4Qs. We were able to upgrade our in-ear units to the Shure PSM 900s. We were able to add more LED panels and do some different creative things with that with our staging. So really in every area of our audio video lighting and even the media in the building, it allowed us to actually have margin to do this project right. And so I'm just so thankful for this opportunity. Speaking of doing things right, let's talk about this floor right here. Man, I spent at least a month figuring out what floor surface we were going to go with. This was the one that was recommended through our builder. They've used it in other installs. It's a black vinyl, very similar to like a Marley type flooring. I talked to a lot of churches that had a similar style floor. The pros and cons weighed them, things like, indentations or stage noise or repairability versus how nice it looks on camera when the lights shine on it, basically, is the deciding factor because it's such a smooth black surface. The problem is that once we settle on this vinyl floor, they installed it, and it's very dirty right now, which is really easy to get dirty. That was one of the things we heard from people is that you have to mop it every week. But once they installed it, we had some issues with it. And so we've actually made the decision now to just swap it out and go with the carpet that I thought from the beginning in my gut probably is what we should do. We had carpet before. I never really disliked it. And I like carpet because you can screw a screw through it and bring it back up and you don't really ever know it was there. It cuts down on a lot of foot traffic noise. You don't get as much like shiny reflections of the lights off the floor. But I mean, if we're going to have so much stuff on this floor, at the end of the day, it's not going to know, you're not going to notice that much. But it's just another little kink in the process. Okay, let's talk about lighting. This is a big shift for me, a big change, and honestly, I'm pretty afraid about it. I have been a Vista user for the last 15 years here at our church. Well, really like 13 years. We had an old school board at one point that broke. But I know Vista pretty much in and out, and the problem with Vista is that they're not making really any new surfaces, and the cost per universe is a little higher than I would like. And so DC Pro recommended the Onyx system, and after researching a lot, it's gotten rave reviews. So we went with the NX1, the new 16 universe version, with the NXK wing that magnetizes to the side of it. And this is great. It's got motorized faders, 16 universes of output, and it's going to be more than we need. The problem for me is going to be just learning the system. All lighting consoles essentially are doing the same things. It's just how do you get them to do that thing that you want it to do? And so I'm excited to spend a lot of time learning the system. And I got some teammates, luckily, that have already begun to invest their time and energy into learning as well. So this is one system, though, that we are completely starting new, and it's a little scary. And I was able to invest in all new fixtures for this space. That was a big change as well once we got the additional budget. So once this is complete and I do an actual tech tour, I'll dive into all those details of what the fixtures are, but I think it's going to look really good. Okay, down here on the bottom floor of our media booth is going to be our normal ProPresenter setup and then audio land over there. So we did go ahead and invest for this rack over here in an X-Max Studio setup from Sonnet Tech. So we have a new Mac Studio paired with a larger DeckLink card that can do up to 8 outputs via mini SDI. So those 1080p outputs will be feeding all of our stage displays, LED wall content, all from this one machine here at front of house. And then let me show you our new audio console. We did go with the Behringer Wing. Yes, we are sticking with the economically friendly but yet powerful Behringer ecosystem. You know, I started back in the day on a Midas M32. The last 14 months we've been using an X32. And honestly, they have treated us so well that I just couldn't think of a great reason to change all of our infrastructure, all of our stage snakes, all of our personal monitor mixers when this has served us really, really well. So you don't have to believe all of the hype out there that this is a piece of crap and you can't get good audio out of it. Yeah, you can only buy it through Sweetwater, but it still does a great job. And so I'm excited to really dive in. I'm a little scared because I don't know this board as well, but I'm excited to see, you know, what I can get out of this board when it comes to our mix in-house, but also in the broadcast room. So this is the full-size Wing Black with Dante card, no Waves card installed in this one because I just don't need our volunteers worrying about Waves at front of house. And then in broadcast, we will have the Wing Compact that this is sending audio to, that if we want, we can have a separate broadcast audio engineer in there. Now, that's also a big change for us that we've never had to worry about, but I'm excited for that opportunity and also just to be able to use it as kind of our studio board as we continue to write and release music. One of the other regrets/recommendations I would have is not really thinking through where I was going to put my racks throughout our booth locations. And so we switched to these standing desks for our different, stations, and I think that's going to be a great thing. But when you don't have a built-in desk, you don't necessarily have a great place to put rack-mountable things. And this area between my two camera poles would have been the perfect location, except there's only 19.5 inches between them, and you really need about 21.5 for a built-out rack. And so while this would have been a great way to redeem this location, it's not the end of the world. We'll sit the racks underneath one of these, stations and it'll be fine. But that is one little regret, like, come on, Rylan, why didn't you think about that? One of the other areas that I decided to invest these overage of funds into was our LED wall system. We ended up going with the Unilumen Ulux 2.5 panels. I really like these panels because they're a true 16 by 9. And so this is a 10 by 10 panel wall, and it looks great in person. We're going to also have some LED towers and some treatments on the front of our stage decks. And so I think it's going to look great. Now, one of the other things we invested into, because I wanted some flexibility with this wall, was that we went ahead and paid for motors for this wall. But then that had this domino effect of, well, now we need to get a structural engineer out here to sign off that this building can actually hold and hang this much weight. And it's moving weight, and so that complicates all kinds of things. So we paid for the structural engineer to come out. They told us we needed to add steel. So you can see that we've built like this little framing. That is a giant steel beam on each side that goes up high and then connects to this big middle beam that goes right down the middle of our room, which I swear you could hang a school bus off of and nothing would happen because it's so big. But nobody wants to, have liability on their hands if this wall was to fall, even though it's really not that heavy and it's spread across a bunch of stuff, but whatever. But I think a regret I would have with that, guys, is, I wanted flexibility. And with our stage height here, we only have around 21 feet from stage floor to the drop ceiling. And, with our wall being the height that it is, my hope was if we want it down on the deck, like right there, we could have it there. But then if we want it up high, like 7 feet above or 6.5 feet above stage height, so it's not in camera shots, we could also do that. And we can only get it about 5.5 feet now. And that is due to, if you look up there, we got our 12 by 12 box truss, and then, it's wrapped with the gack, and then the shackles are attached to 16 to 18 inch turnbuckles or so. And those things combined really just eat up a lot of the headroom that we had available. And so it's not the end of the world. I don't think anyone is ever going to care except me. But, it's a lesson learned of like really over communicating what my vision is, not just like talking about it once of like, yeah, I want max headroom, but like talking about why. And, with this system, we have to have the turnbuckles because to get perfect leveling and offsetting any chain hoist issues, I guess it's just you have to do it. And so that eats up some space. But at the end of the day, I can put some lights in that dead space between the LED wall and our box truss where those turnbuckles are, and it'll look great. So lesson learned, email document every conversation you ever have and really over communicate the vision. No one's going to care or even understand the why or your vision for the space unless you do it and articulate that well. So I've learned a lot through this process. I'm excited to almost see the finish line there out in the distance. It almost feels like a Monty Python thing where like they're running towards the camera. You think they're coming closer, and every time you look away and look back, you're the same distance away. But no, we are getting closer. We actually just got all of our camera stuff in for our new broadcast setup, and we are going with Panasonic cameras, baby. Yep, S5IIs, GH7s. I could have gone Sony, I could have gone Canon, I could have gone Blackmagic. I looked at it all, and I decided I'm just going to keep rocking with what has worked well for me for the last umpteen years. Just upgrade the camera bodies and get some new lenses that are going to work well in this space. And, I've loved Panasonic. So full videos will come about all those things with deep dives. And honestly, I was tempted to really just wait until our whole space was done to show you guys the finished shiny product. But that's not really what this channel is all about. It's about documenting my journey as a worship and media arts pastor, being able to share with you guys what I'm learning along the way. And hopefully it can help you. It can encourage you and equip you to do your job the best that you can wherever you're serving in your local church. And, at the end of the day, it's just a building. It's just drywall. And at the same time, though, it's not. Like, I believe that God is going to do awesome things in this place for many years to come, that people's lives are going to be changed. And, with my YouTube channel, it's just a YouTube channel. But I also pray that, like, each video I post does more than just entertain somebody while they're eating lunch, that it can equip and encourage you to keep doing great things for God's glory, because, that's what it's all about. God's placed this in our local churches, and let's do the very best that we can to make a difference for Him and His glory. And so, man, I'm praying a great 2026 for you, that you would believe in Psalm 65, that God crowns each year with His goodness, and that you would just begin your year with that hope in your heart. I know I am, and I'm looking forward to what He's going to do here at my church, in my work, in my family, but also with you guys in my YouTube channel. So here's to a year of doing great things for God's glory. We'll see you soon.